Greetings and a hearty welcome, everyone. I hope you're all faring well. I'm Dr. Jean Marie, your Love Light host, coming to you, shining love light into your hearts and homes to uplift, inspire, and empower you to create a life you love. We are in the spring of a new season, and it is refreshing to begin anew, to gain clarity, calmness, and control. Welcome, everyone, to our very special spring show, Conquering the Chaos, Untangling Your Home and Life with Julie Coraccio. Untangling and decluttering our lives is a form of self-care, releasing what no longer serves us to craft the life we desire. This creates space for new energy and opens up new possibilities. Albert Einstein quotes, "Out of clutter, find simplicity. From discord, find harmony. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." And Wayne Mesner, "Keeping baggage from the past will leave no room for the happiness in the future." So, how can we go about detangling our lives and homes to conquer and release chaos? Our amazing guest, Julie Coraccio, founder of Reawaken Your Brilliance, award-winning professional life and end-of-life organizer, certified life coach, author of 10 books, including Got Clutter, 365 journal prompts, Reclaim Time, Money, Sanity, and Resources. Julie is passionate about helping people clear clutter in all areas of their lives, getting organized and becoming more mindful and aware. She hosts the self-help podcast, Clear Your Clutter Inside Out. So now I welcome Julie Coraccio on our very special spring show, Conquering the Chaos, Untangling Your Home and Life. Julie, welcome to Love Light.
Hey, Dr. Jean, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I always enjoy our conversations.
And so do I. And I know our listeners are looking forward to this very fantastic show to kick off the spring season. So, Julie, can you tell us a little bit about what inspired your work and your passion as a professional life and end of life organizer?
Well, Dr. Jean, I was always kind of uptight and organized. And when people needed help with that, they'd be like, come on over and help me. I've got a lot of clutter and chaos here. So I was like, sure, let's do this. And it was something that I enjoyed. And then when I left Los Angeles and moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, I was at a job that just wasn't a match for me. It was kind of crazy town. And I thought, you know what? I just don't want to get another job. So what can I do? Because I'm a single woman, I have to be able to support myself. And so I thought, you know what? You've always helped people declutter and organize. Why don't you do that? And so that was the first step into starting this career. And at the time, and I hope anyone that's listening, I just have to say for a moment, do it, be a solopreneur, write your books, have a business. I think it's really important. And I always like to encourage people to do that, to face your fear and step out. And if you want to be a business person, definitely to do that. But at the time, I had called my business Healing Through Organization because you and I are really on that same wavelength about how it's important that what we do supports people. And then I had a situation where I was working with a client and she said, I just want to talk. And I said, okay. And we ended up talking and kind of digging deeper a little more and understanding what was behind her clutter. And within an hour, we had so much decluttered. And it was really an aha moment for me. I'm like, you know what? It's more about the clutter and less about the organizing. If we can clear the clutter, the organizing will easily follow. And so I encourage people, if they can, if they dig a little deeper on their clutter, it's going to support them in not only being able to let it go more quickly, but also preventing it from coming back.
Julie, thank you so much for sharing your beginnings, and it inspires us to really live our passion to help ourselves and also others. So thank you for sharing that. And I'd like for you to really highlight what is clutter and how clutter leads to chaos, which is what our show is about.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'm sure that your listeners understand the concept everything is energy. And so if that's a little odd to someone, you've probably heard the expression, the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife.
Yes.
Or you've walked into a room after an argument and you're like, wow, this room feels off. Or if I can be honest, you've met a politician and wanted to take a shower afterwards, right? And it just says
Mhm.
something about that energy. And so that's what clutter is, right? Clutter is that chaotic feeling. It's a stuck, stagnant energy. And clutter can wreak havoc not only on your home, but also your life. And, I'm a kind of a geeky stats girl, and I encourage people, I mean, do your research, but they have found that clutter causes a general dampening of your brain. I don't know
Mm.
about you, but as I age, I'm trying to keep that brain as sharp as it
Yes.
as she can be. But it also has been found that people don't take their meds. They're less likely to exercise. If you can't find what you need, you're losing time and losing money. And so this can create chaos in all areas of your life.
And this really highlights the your book about
Hmm.
saving time, money, resources, and most importantly, your sanity.
Yes,
Hmm. So
absolutely.
Judy, I know you focus on like uh, emotional clutter, spiritual clutter. Can you really highlight that for our listeners?
Sure. I'm so glad that you asked this because I first want to share my definition of clutter because it's a little bit different than most people. And I
Okay.
consider clutter to be anything that prevents you from creating a life and space that you love. And I'm going to encourage people look at the bigger picture of clutter. And so what I mean by that is you say, oh, it's a messy desk, right? It's just kind of disorganized, not a big deal. But that messy desk might be a roadblock to you getting a promotion, or it might be a roadblock for you sitting down and writing that novel that you said, oh, I've always wanted to write that, or looking at an overstuffed closet as being is preventing a romance from blossoming. So first engage in that and think of that bigger picture. And then I like to look at different areas of your life. Like we can have social media clutter. I don't think you and I have talked about that before, but
Yeah.
uh,
Hmm.
you know, the talk about emotional clutter, social media is so crazy these days. You can get into an argument with someone you don't even know on social media and spend all this time and energy and stress on someone's mind you're probably not going to change, and they're probably not going to change yours, right? Or this makes your blood pressure go up if you read some of these things on social media. Or another aspect of that clutter is you say, oh, I'm just going to check Facebook for 5 minutes, and 2 hours later you've done nothing. You've gotten sucked into that social media, and there are probably other things that are more important to you than spending that time on social media. Emotional clutter can be those knee-jerk reactions that you have, right? Instead of being in that present moment and it's, oh, this happened to me in the past, and so that means it's going to happen to me again, instead of being present and just having that angry or sad reaction, right? You can have the mental clutter. Insomnia is a result of mental clutter. Or you can have what I like to refer to as monkey mind. It's just chatters like a monkey. It never shuts up. And so they're all areas. I mentioned just a moment ago about the statistics about being non-compliant with exercising and meds. You can have health clutter if you're sitting all day, right? Or you're not doing your yearly checkups on your teeth or with your doctor, right? All of it can become clutter. And remember, when we clear our clutter, then we can focus on what matters most. We can focus on our passion. We can spend time with people we love that bring us joy. Or Jean and I are both pet parents, right? And
Yes.
so spending that time on what's most important.
That is so meaningful because I love your definition of clutter and then this new aspect of social media clutter. And again, I go back to your book, saving time, money, resources, because
Hmm.
our time is so important and so valuable. And I think, for me, I have to kind of monitor or give myself limits, on what,
Hmm. Yes.
I will focus my time on because, like you say, you can naturally get carried away. And, having to manage yourself and manage your time is so very important.
And the older I get, you cannot put a price tag on peace of mind. I have a sign in my office. I'm glancing at it now. It's on my big bulletin board there, so I cannot miss it. And it says, "Do I want to be right or do I want peace of mind?" And
Yes.
the older I get, more often, I'm not at 100% yet, but more often I'm picking peace. And I've just found that you can't put a price tag on peace of mind.
So true. And, I think for me, the litmus test is asking myself this question, am I in fear or am I in love? Because a lot of times these
Yes.
things kind of trigger, fear responses. And it's like, okay, I don't like the way I'm feeling. And I know that I'm in fear. And fear comes on so many levels, right? And as the masters say, we're either in fear or love. And
Hmm.
holding on to things, is that, when we look at it and decluttering, how does fear really you know contribute to clutter and all of the chaos that we may
That's an
allow in our lives? Go ahead.
Well, first, that's an excellent question, and I don't think I've ever been asked that. Oh, I'm excited. I always get happy when been asked something. But as you're talking, I'm like, that you just made a great connection there. Because, for instance, one of the hardest things for me to let go of are books, because I love to read. I read 217 books last year. Wanted to see if before I retired I could read over 200 books in a year, but I'm passionate about reading. I'm passionate about the library. I'm on our Friends of the Library board. And so I just took three, we do a spring and fall sale. So I just packed up 3 boxes of books to take to the library. But one of the reasons it's hard for me is, well, I'll share one thing that it's hard for many people is they're afraid if they let go of their books, they'll lose the knowledge, right?
Been
I've read
there.
that book, but if the book goes, right?
Yes,
Than
yes.
the knowledge. Or for me, I'll be like, oh, but what if I want to read that again? Or what if I want to
Hmm.
reference that, right? And
Hmm.
said if that's legitimate fear. And so what I would say to that is, well, library, I'm giving it away. Someone might buy it, and that's okay, but I can find it online if I need to, or if I have to buy it again, that's not ideal, but sometimes life happens. But I could go to the library, a friend might have it, right? There are all these options. Another roadblock for people in decluttering is they fear they will lose their memories, right? If I give what my grandmother gave me away, then I'm going to lose the memory of my grandmother. And
That's
people
important.
do that, and it's not about judgment, but they mistakenly put their memories onto the object. So they think if the object goes, then my memories are going to go. And that's not true. Our memories are in our heart and in our head. And, I just want to talk a moment, if it's okay, about the grieving process and decluttering.
Sure.
I've known Jean a while, and she's known me since my mom
Hmm.
passed. It'll be
Hmm.
4 years in August. But my father was like, okay, come and go through your mother's stuff. And I wasn't in a position, I was still really grieving. So I'm going to encourage you that if you have to clear out someone's home, that if you are able, and sometimes we can't in these situations, but give yourself the room to grieve. I'm finishing up going through my mother's stuff 4 years later. I just put it in the basement and have been going through it at different stages when I felt like, okay, I can go through this. I'll just share a quick funny thing that happened. So about a month, and my dad was being very kind, and my mother was a painter, and he said, "Why I'm going to give you first dibs to come through and choose painting." So I went through and I had a pile. My husband, who is wonderful, came and he looked at the pile. I had a couple piles, and he said, "Honey, we don't have enough wall space for all these pictures." And so I kind of chuckled and knew he's right. And so I went through the pile again and got it to a manageable amount that we had enough wall space for. So that's why I encourage you that if you are able to, sometimes we have to declutter if grief is involved in stages. And then one other point I will share that I found really helpful with my mother's paintings, because I thought, talk about feeling really attached to something and having these memories, and something that my mom was painting until a week before she died because it brought her such joy. But something that helped me let go of the paintings were I gave paintings to people who knew my mom
Mm.
and had a connection to her. And so when I gave the paintings, I was giving them to people I loved. And I was like, oh, my mom's going to brighten all these homes. And when I did that and thought of it from that perspective, that made me really happy and I was able to let go. So that's just a quick tip that
Mm.
might help someone.
That is beautiful. And thank you for sharing about grieving. And because we have to allow ourselves time and, it's not like it's really finished. And giving,
Yes.
and I can see why you are such a fantastic end of life professional organizer because we go through these experiences ourselves. And
Hmm.
sharing the story about your mother and, love, one of the ingredients of love is generosity. And instead of hoarding, these belongings, give them away, maybe have special keepsakes, but give it away and bring joy to others. And I love that about your mother's paintings. What a wonderful story.
And when someone says to me, I'm texting you or I'm emailing you because I thought of you today because I was looking at your mom's painting and thinking about your
Mm.
mom. And,
Mhm.
that just warms my heart and makes me very happy. And it confirms that it was the right decision. So the thought of my mom, we spread her ashes. She loved to travel. So anytime we travel, we take some of her ashes. And it's
Oh,
kind of the same way at the paintings. She's all over the country.
yes. Thank you so much. What a beautiful story. Well, I think we're ready for a brief commercial break. So for our listeners, stay tuned for more on this very special spring show, Conquering the Chaos, Untangling Your Home and Life with Julie Coraccio, founder of Reawaken Your Brilliance award-winning professional life and end of life organizer, certified life coach, author of many books, including Got Clutter, 365 journal prompt series, Reclaim Time, Money, Sanity, and Resources. Stay tuned. We'll return shortly. Welcome back to Love Light, Living in the Spirit of Love. If you're just joining us, we are with our amazing guest, Julie Coraccio, founder of Reawaken Your Brilliance, award-winning professional life and end-of-life organizer, certified life coach, author of many books, including Got Clutter, 365 Journal Prompts series, Reclaim Time, Money, Sanity, and resources on our very special spring show, Conquering the Chaos, Untangling Your Home and Life. And Julie, thank you so much for setting the tone for this fantastic show. One of the questions that I like to bring up, uh, do you find people starting the cleanup process, decluttering, and then backtracking, accumulating clutter again? Can you talk about that? Because there may be
Abs
listeners out there experiencing that.
Absolutely, and they should know that they're not alone. As I mentioned earlier in the show, one of the things that I do with clients is I want to dig a little deeper, right? And what's behind the clutter? If we can figure out the source of the clutter or what the clutter is about or what's going on, then people are less likely to backtrack. So, for example, I'll share I had a client and she was widowed at a young age and she had three small children and she was someone who was very wealthy. And so she was single woman in her 70s and her whole house was filled with clothes. Clothes were one of the ways that she was filling that hole, fulfilling that need. And what it was partially grief, but it was partially being alone, right? I mean, sure, kids had grown up and she had grandkids, but they weren't close by. And so she was using clothes as a way to fulfill that need. And so one of the things we worked on as we were decluttering and letting things go, it's like, well, what would you like to date? Would you like to create a circle of friends? What are your interests? What can we do to help you and to support you after as we go through this process and once we're done so you don't accumulate the clutter again. And remember, it's so important, don't judge yourself, right? We all
Yes.
have our challenges, we all have our issues. So it's about awareness, right? You wouldn't, if you were teaching your child something, you wouldn't scold them if it was something they didn't know. So it's about increasing your self-awareness. So what is it that you're trying to fill? Like in the example I used, the woman really a need for connection. I mean, it wasn't
Mm,
just romantic. It was at that we all need that human connection. So, they talk a lot in feng shui. If you collect things, that a lot of times you are trying to fulfill that need and it represents that. So
mhm,
what would it be? So I'll share a personal example. I was a victim of a violent crime when I lived in Los Angeles, and I wasn't even, Dr. Jean wasn't even aware of it. And not long after that, I got this beautiful angel that I hung above my door. And then I would continue to collect angels. And then I read this book on feng shui, and I was like, oh my gosh, angels. I collect angels. Well, what's that about? And so I took the time, did some journaling, and I thought about it. I was like, aha. I collect angels because they represent to me love and protection. So
mm,
I was like, that angel over the door is not going to stop someone if they come through the door. So what do I need to do to feel loved? So I was like,
mhm,
okay, we need to strengthen relationships. So that was one aspect. And I was like, well, what do I need to do to feel safe and protected? So I took a self-defense class and I took a couple of them. And after taking those classes, I was like, you know what? If I'm ever in a situation, and I had to use it, if I'm ever in a situation again, I know how to handle myself. And so
mhm.
once I figured that, and I still have angels, I love angels, but I don't collect them anymore. I'm content with what I have. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense, and I'm an avid practicer of feng shui, and I look around
Mm-hmm.
at my home and look at, okay, what do you need to really reorganize or give away or whatever? And I think what you're saying is that reflect on why am I holding on
Mm-hmm.
to this, and
Mm-hmm.
what beliefs that I hold am I holding on, and you're showing people how to reframe those beliefs and I love that, you talk about the sense of connection. How can I move away from the comfort, the perceived or illusion of comfort of
Mm-hmm.
things to connecting with people? And it's like opening the space to perhaps volunteer, right? Do
Mm-hmm.
something
Yep.
different, right?
Absolutely. Or adopt a pet. Gosh, we have our shelters are overflowing, right?
Mhm.
And talk about someone Dr. Jean and I are both
Mhm.
big pet people. Like I have a
Mhm.
house full of cats. She's a dog woman, and but they bring so much joy into our life. If you are, are shy and like, you know what, I don't know if I can go out and get a pet.
Mhm.
That pet's
Mhm.
going to help provide that nurturing, that love, and that will give you more confidence to get out there and to be able to do more things. And it's just, again, it's about increasing your self-awareness. And what is it that a need I'm trying to fulfill? And there are disasters. Like we've read about all the fires in California, and you just,
Yes.
God forbid that, you ever lose everything, but it happens, right? And that situation, you have no control over. What are you going to be able to do, right?
Mhm.
And so it's not about thinking like that, but just understanding that sometimes those things happen. So our possessions are really, we're borrowing them, right? They're really not
Mhm.
ours, even if we own them, if that makes any sense.
Makes a lot of sense. And Julie, it is highlighted that there is an epidemic of loneliness. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are kind of trapped in their homes, afraid of connection. And, we have to really revisit why am I doing what I'm doing? And as you indicated, to have moments of reflection. I like to pose this question. When, and you're professional, when is professional help needed?
Oh, great question. I would say if people that you love, or maybe people that you don't love are just like, wow, you have a lot of stuff, or comment, hey, I'm concerned about you. Are you okay? Just have a lot of stuff, and it seems whether it's a struggle to get through your house because you have so much stuff, or you seem to get angry a lot very easily, or you seem to be sad a lot, right? If people are posing those questions, and then if you don't have someone that's mentioned that, ask yourself, are you happy? Are you doing what makes you happy? Can you relax in your home just from the physical perspective? Can you at the end of a long day just like, it feels so good to be home? Or if you come home, you're like, I'm reminded about all the stuff that I have to do and I can't get away from it. And there's just so much stuff. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, right? It's like I can't do my taxes. I can, barely use a calculator, but I don't beat myself up and say, oh, you have to use an accountant. I'm
Mhm.
like grateful that there's someone with that skill that I don't have. So you're just, and are you happy? Are you doing what you want? Are you focusing on what matters? And if you aren't, and then you know what? It might be some time to get some help. And
Mm.
again, no shame in that. And, if you've been just from the physical perspective, if you've been buying things for years and years and years and never letting anything go, there's a good chance you've got some stuff you can release.
Mhm. So important. And I love those key questions. Are you happy? Can you relax? Are you focusing on what you love or doing what you love? Boy, those are empowering key questions that can motivate you to really look at your life, look at your home, and make small steps to start letting go, decluttering, and untangling.
Yeah, I mean, and to simplify it even further, you can ask, what is your clutter costing you? Is
Mm.
it costing you friendships because you're late all the time and people don't want it because you can't find your keys and people are like, you know what, I'm tired of waiting for you. Or is it, and then what you'd gain when you release your clutter? I won't fight with my spouse over all the junk that's here. I'll
Mhm.
find my keys in the morning. I'll stop being late. I won't be losing money buying clothes only to discover a month later I already had one.
Mhm. And Julie, I think looking at, okay, what are some things that I would like to do? Because we can get
Mm-hmm.
caught up into the same old habitual patterns, perhaps buying things or, being in that illusion of comfort with the clutter that surrounds us. But open our hearts and minds and start looking at what are some other things that I like to do. Do I want to
Mm-hmm.
travel? Do I want to,
Yes.
what are some other things that you like to do? And then that can be a motivator to perhaps put your resources in places that can fulfill dreams on another level.
Absolutely. And I want to challenge everyone listening because probably most of us can raise our hand. How often do you order from Amazon or do online shopping? Now,
Hmm.
when we were going through COVID, it's understandable. And when I was living in North Carolina, my dad would say, I need something for your mom. I could go online and order it. And it was a blessing then. And if you could needed to get your groceries delivered during COVID, there was a positive to that. But I think that we have gone, not all of us, but I think a lot
Mm-hmm.
of us have gone to the negative. Like it's so easy to
Mm-hmm.
accumulate stuff because
Mm-hmm.
one click and you're done, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so
Yes.
look at your online shopping habits because that's something, instead of boom, I'm going to order, you know what? I'm going to wait 48 hours before I order
I
anything.
like
Or I'm
that.
going to
Mm-hmm.
challenge myself. Can I support a local business? Can I find something locally? And if you have that cooling off period, then you think, you know what? Kind of the urge to buy has passed and I don't need to do that. And I don't need to buy it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it just makes it easy for us to accumulate clutter because it's so easy to purchase online.
Indeed. Don't have to go out and go shopping. Just click and there it is.
Hmm.
Julie, let's talk a bit about boredom because when we think about boredom and how we can get trapped into, well, like you said, the social media aspect. Yeah, I have nothing
Hmm.
to do, and here we got a whole world out here where you can spend time in nature, but how does
Hmm.
boredom play a role in clutter and being stuck?
Well, you're bored, you kind of don't want to do anything. When you're bored, you're not going to do any self-examination. You're just kind of like blah, whatever, right? And that's keeping you stuck right there. And we talk about the literal stuck stagnant energy of clutter. And so that's about taking the time to dig deeper. Well, what's my boredom about? Maybe my boredom is that I'm afraid if I put myself out there that I'll be laughed at or
Mm-hmm.
rejected. Or maybe my boredom is I'm unsure and I'm afraid I'm going to make the wrong answer. And so I'll just, focus on the boredom instead of taking a leap or taking a chance on something. So sitting with that. Well, what's my bored? Talk to your boredom. I'm a huge fan of journaling. What is your boredom trying to tell you? Look at it as a signal, a little light to lead a path to dig deeper and find out what it's really about. A lot of times our emotion are kind of the beginning and that there are layers to that. Like I've learned with myself, a lot of times if I'm angry, or not a lot of a fair amount of times if I'm angry, if I usually stop in the moment, take a breath and try to examine it, a lot of times sadness is really what it is and not anger. It's just masking itself as anger. So that's an opportunity for you to have increase your self-awareness, get to know yourself better and it leads back really to fear, which you talked about, Dr. Jean, like we're either coming from fear or love. And so, how can we switch that from thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be ridiculed, and saying, what if I change someone's life because I inspired them? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And getting a different perspective.
Mm, that's so important. When I retired from years of career in higher education, and it was like, okay, what do I do now with my life? And of course, I created a nonprofit foundation, Life Care Wellness Pep for Angels, and I got a grant funded for the Children's Hospital, and I sponsored uh, like uh, what inspirational cultural arts festivals, bringing in, bridging the gap between the hospital and the community, bringing ballet dancers and magicians and storytellers. And
Wow.
I did that for 2 years. But what prompted me is that I was bored and it's like, what do I do with myself? So it's like I found
Hmm.
so much joy in sponsoring those projects for the children, the caregivers, the healthcare providers at the hospital, and for the people who came in and served as the artists for those activities. So we can be creative, and that occupied my time for 2 years, and I found joy in that.
Eh, right. And you focused on others, right? You took it off yourself
Yes,
for a moment. It's like, what do I need
yes.
to do? Well, how can I support? How can I make a difference to others? And then you opened up all these new amazing things. And not only were you in joy, you brought joy to thousands, right?
Yes, yes. And so I think we have to stretch ourselves, be creative. And when we release
Hmm.
the blocks and release the clutter and untangle, it truly opens the space for something new.
Right. And when you think of clutter, I'm glad that you use that term space. That is it's the stuck stagnant energy blocks you from bringing in what you want. Because why is the universe going to give you something that you desire? Because the energy's saying, hey, I'm good to go. I'm all full. I'm all
Mhm,
abundant. You know what? I can't
mhm.
really take anything else in. Sorry.
Exactly.
Thanks. Thanks for
Ex-
playing. Right. But when you shift that, and I'm sure many of us have experienced if we've changed something or shift something, that it literally opens up that space. And one, you can feel it when you release physical clutter, but I think you notice it in your life, like things are flow more easily, right? Instead of like,
mhm,
if we pay attention, if we keep butting our head against something, that's saying, hey, wrong path. Let's do a pivot and do something else, right? We're being shown that. We're being saying, hey, this isn't right. Let's do
mhm.
something else here and try something else.
During a time when I was moving and I downsized, and boy, it's like, gosh, you have so much stuff, but it was an opportunity to downsize, clear,
Mhm.
let go. I found stuff that I never used, clothes I had never bought, and it's like, okay, you can't keep moving this stuff from one place to the other. You have to let go
Mhm.
and give it away. And I too love books. I had a whole library of books. It's like, okay, let go, give it away, and bring joy to other people. And I had to, and as I accumulated my little piles, and it's like I would go back and I'm like, no, I'm not sure. I don't think I should. And it's like, okay, give it away and don't look back. No regrets.
Yes. Yes. I thought, and you know what? I encourage you, if you're doing that, get it out of the house and say, okay, after I declutter today, I'm going to take it straight to the car, or I'm going to schedule a charity to come pick it up, right? There are some
Yes.
charities, depending on what it is, or you can do that. And so then it's out. Then because you're not alone, people are like, oh, maybe I want that. Let me go through these piles
Yes.
again, right? And then they
And
end
it
up
wastes time, Julie,
bringing things back.
right?
Yes, yes.
And
So
you
have a
won't
plan
need
in
it.
place.
hmm
Yes,
And sometimes they're
a thousand
boxes.
percent.
I had boxes in the carport, and I'm like, gosh, I haven't gone through these boxes in years. And retiring from higher education, I had books and notes and all of that, and it was hard
Hmm.
letting that go. But it's like you're on to a new chapter of your life. Let it go.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Julie, I think we're up for another commercial break. So, for our listeners, stay tuned for more on conquering the chaos, untangling your home and life with our fantastic guest, Julie Coraccio, founder of Reawaken Your Brilliance, award winning professional life and end of life organizer, certified life coach, author of many books, including Got Clutter, 365 journal prompt series, Reclaim Time, Money, Sanity, and Resources. We will return shortly. Welcome back to Love Light Living in the Spirit of Love. Our very special spring show today will certainly help you clear the clutter, untangle chaos, and start afresh with our amazing guest, Julie Coraccio, founder of Reawaken Your Brilliance, award-winning professional life and end-of-life organizer, certified life coach, author of Got Clutter, 365 journal prompt series, Reclaim Time, Money, and Sanity. On our show today, Conquering the Chaos, Untangling Your Home and Life. Julie, clutter, chaos, it can be overwhelming. Where can we start?
It can be overwhelming. So I just want to have a little trick whenever you get overwhelmed with anything in life. And I share this because of my first job decluttering. I was in this biggest pantry I'd ever seen. It was like 6 feet high. I'd never seen so much food. And it's like I forgot everything. And I said, just breathe. So I stopped, did some
Mhm,
grounding, had my deep breaths, and I was like, okay, now I know what I need to do. So whenever we become overwhelmed, grounding and just breathing are great tools. So one of the things you can do before decluttering that's going to help decrease your overwhelm is being really clear on what's important. What is your
mhm,
priority? So
mhm,
say for instance, you're like, you know what? My priority is to lose weight. Then that can help you say, okay, then I'm going to start in the kitchen because if I clear my kitchen clutter, then I can make sure it's easy for me to cook healthy meals instead of relying on frozen food and takeout. So if you're very clear on your priorities, that can be a first step. So instead of you're like, Julie, I have my whole house needs to clutter. You have that priority, you know where to start. You can also break things down into manageable steps, right? You didn't create that clutter in one weekend. Most times, the clutter accumulation has been over a period of years, right? So release those expectations that it's going to be done in a weekend, right? And so, I like to share a little statistic. If you do 10 minutes a day, that equals just over 60 hours in a year. You can get a lot of decluttering done in 60 hours, but it's important if you commit to it, then you will follow through on it. And if, again, even that little bit of time, and because if you're like, I'm overwhelmed, you can give me 5 minutes, you can give me 10 minutes, and then you can build upon that. If you're overwhelmed, you can hire someone. If you don't have someone like me close by, although I know a lot of people like me, I work online because people have someone to talk to and we can work through everything that comes. Get your family and friends involved. Say, you know what?
mhm,
We're going to have a party. We're going to declutter the garage. And come on over. I'm going to get pizza and I need your help, right?
mhm,
Sometimes we
mhm,
just need to ask for that help and to take that first step. And you can say, hey, you know what? If you help me declutter my garage, I will help you declutter your garage, right? And make something fun out of it.
mm,
So there are
mm, I love that.
definitely options out there if you're feeling overwhelmed.
And this builds connection, right? And support for each other,
Mm-hmm.
mutual support. I love that. And getting what families involved as well. If you have children or,
Mm-hmm.
family members living in the house, parents or whatever, and, perhaps there's a tendency to accumulate things. Can you make it a family affair?
1,000%. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because I work with people who weren't taught these skills as children. They weren't taught, what is excess or how to let things go. And so they struggle as adults. So there are definitely age appropriate things that you can do as a family. And, the good thing about it is in the families I've worked with, someone might struggle in this area, but another family member doesn't. And the opposite is true. And so the strengths and weaknesses tend to balance each other out. So we help improve each other's skills and we're able to do it because when someone's like, I'm falling down, I can't do this, then the other person has a hand to help them up because it's something that they're able to do. And when you are working, especially with family, remember that you're part of a solution, right? You're not part of
Hmm.
a problem. Sometimes
Hmm.
when I've worked with people, then, you did this and it's your fault we're like that. And I'm going to encourage you not to do that. Leave the past in the past. We're in the present moment. We are working on decluttering and organizing right now. So let's leave that in the past. Now, if you need to express something, I can absolutely respect that. But then you say, you know what? I felt very overwhelmed every time I go into the house because of your pile of stuff. It causes me a great amount of stress or whatever it is you're feeling. But if you use that I feel statement, that's not saying you, and pointing the finger. You're saying this is how it's affected me. And people are more likely to be open to hearing that instead of saying you're the problem and you're at fault.
Hmm. Judy, I love that because it's like you can have a family intervention. And
Yes.
if needed, get a life coach like yourself to help with that. Because let's talk about the aspect of emotional or spiritual forgiveness. I mean, spiritual clearing, the act of forgiveness. Things can come
Oh,
up when you're in these family situations or having to let go of things or a lot of anger and different sadness and different emotions, as you previously talked about grief. What are your thoughts about that in terms of that family aspect of, spiritual clutter and letting go?
absolutely. I mean, sometimes in situations, the clutter is the manifestation about what's going on. I had a friend that clutter was normal for her because her family situation growing up was so chaotic, right? And so the clutter kind of just mirrored what was going on in the situation. And, we've talked about shifting energy and opening up space. And so if you as a family are doing all this and things definitely can come up. But as you mentioned, this can be an opportunity to heal. This can be an opportunity to express how you're feeling. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. And then,
Sure.
because sometimes we need to be able to express something and then we're able to let it go and able to move forward. I mean, I'm definitely someone that falls into that category. Like, I'll never forget a couple years ago, my brother's like, you seem really angry. And we had a conversation about it. And as we were talking, I figured out, I said, because I've been prevented from saying what I need to say. I've been prevented. I've been told what I'm feeling is wrong and I'm not allowed to feel that way. And that's garbage. And I said, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
I'm angry. And then I was like, okay, then I can say, take the step now. This is why I'm upset, blah, blah, blah. And then I can let it go because I gave myself permission to express how I was feeling.
Fantastic. So it can be healing. What clear
Oh,
the untangling our lives, untangling the chaos, it can lead to healing. How beautiful is that?
I mean, 1,000%. One of my very first jobs, and I apologize if I've shared this on the show before, but it was so powerful, and I was honestly surprised. I would tell a story. I'm going through a sock drawer, and the woman's next to me working, and she all of a sudden said I was molested, right? But we're clearing that thing we're going through, and that wasn't the first thing we had done. So we've been working in the bedroom and doing all this, and that opened up the space for her to be able to voice that. When I work with someone, I'm like, I'm always going to hold the space for healing or whatever needs to come up. And then I was able to say, that's a phenomenal insight. Let me find some resources for people who can further help you on your journey to healing.
That's so important. I know as a rehab counselor practitioner, working with women and people, on probation coming out of prison, and I had the
Mhm.
opportunity to work with many females who had drug issues. And in sessions, they revealed to me, well, I was molested as a child. And it was
Mhm.
like, wow, they said, gosh, that makes me feel so good. I've never said that. And, holding on to those negative emotions out of fear and
Mhm.
guilt and shame, and finally being able to release that is so refreshing and, spiritually cleansing.
And it's freeing, right?
Yes, yes,
Because you're no longer being weighed down, whether it's the physical things, the mental anxiety, the emotional angst. It allows you to be free from all that. And, feeling free has got to be one of the best feelings in the world.
indeed, indeed. And freedom is what detangling and clearing chaos is
Hmm.
about. So, Julie, how can people connect with you and briefly share with your about your classes or sessions?
Sure, thank you. So if they go to reawakenyourbrilliance.com, You can connect with me on social. I have a free newsletter you can sign up for. And if you sign up, you get 10 free tips to start decluttering your life right now. I give you bam, this is an action that you can take immediately after downloading it. I also have created some guided meditations to help you clear clutter. I have some printed affirmations and some audio affirmations that I'm super excited about. It's on my website, and it's also on Etsy on Declutter Your Life and classes and all that good stuff. And if they want to work with me, there's more information on the website. And also, you can link to my podcast, Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out.
Okay, so reawaken your brilliance with Julie Coraccio. Thank you so much, Julie, for being on this very special spring show, sharing your wisdom and empowering strategies for us to clear our homes and our lives, to open the space for something new and create a life you love. And we invite listeners to share our show with others and connect with Julie to learn more. So release the burden and chaos of physical, mental, and emotional and spiritual clutter. Discard anything that inhibits you from living your best life. Joshua Becker quotes, "The first step in crafting the life you want is to get rid of everything you don't. It is clearing." So let's tidy up our lives, sort ourselves out, return things where they belong, give away what you no longer need, and you will see the abundance in your life. Perhaps before considering a new purchase, take inventory of what you already have before purchasing something new. Owning less is better than owning more. I will close with two excerpts. One on self-cleanse. Purify your mind, body, and soul. Cleanse your heart and guard your mind. Wash away negativity. Cleanse yourself from all that defile and disturb your inner being. Refresh with forgiveness and compassion. Refresh with pure intentions, meditation, and prayer. Refresh with gratitude. Refresh with the cleansing power of nature. Bathe in the healing power of love. Be restored to your true soulful self. Be renewed with peace and joy. And also self balance. Hold everything within the scales of balance. Measure life in good proportion and proper balance. Nourish yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. Tend to what feels good, right, and true. Maintain emotional control and hold your passions in check. Be just and fair in daily affairs. Rest when you're weary. Balance work and play. Live in moderation to sustain harmony, peace, and well being. This is Dr. Jean Marie, your Love Light host. We hope you've enjoyed our very special spring show. And thanks to Julie Coraccio for being our guest today. Until we meet again, remember, an empowered self is a loving self. And keep your love light shining.